Brisbane Airport is the primary international airport serving Brisbane and southeast Queensland. It is the third busiest Australian airport by aircraft movements. The airport services 26 airlines flying to 42 domestic and 28 international destinations, in total amounting in more than 21.8 million passengers who travelled through the airport in 2013. Brisbane Airport is a major hub for Virgin Australia, and a secondary hub for both Qantas and its low-cost subsidiary Jetstar. Tigerair Australia also opened a base at Brisbane Airport on March 11, 2014. Brisbane has the third highest number of domestic connections in Australia following Sydney and Melbourne. It is also home to Qantas 767-300 and A330 heavy maintenance facility. Virgin Australia has a smaller maintenance facility at the airport, where line maintenance on the airline's 737 fleet is performed. Other airlines, namely QantasLink and Alliance Airlines, also conduct maintenance at their respective facilities at the airport. The airport has international and domestic passenger terminals, a cargo terminal, a general aviation terminal and apron, as well as 2 runways. Brisbane Airport is accessible from the central business district by the Gateway Motorway and the Airtrain rail service, which is linked to the Queensland Rail City network. The new Airport Link motorway now connects the Brisbane CBD and the airport. History Eagle Farm Airport Brisbane's first airport was Eagle Farm Airport that was built in 1925 on former agricultural land in the suburb of Eagle Farm, located 6 kilometres northeast of Brisbane or 5 kilometres southwest of Brisbane Airport's domestic terminal. Although Qantas started operations there in 1926, most of the flights in Brisbane operated at the Archerfield Airport, which contained a superior landing surface. While in operation, Charles Kingsford Smith landed there on June 9, 1928, after completing the first trans-Pacific flight in his Fokker F-3, the Southern Cross. There is now a museum containing the original aircraft, along with a memorial located within the Brisbane Airport precinct. During the Second World War, Brisbane was the headquarters of the Supreme Commander of Allied Forces in the Southwest Pacific area, General Douglas MacArthur. The United States Armed Forces upgraded the airfield to cater for military flights, bringing it to such a standard that it became the main civilian airport for the city. By the 1970s it was clear that the facilities at Eagle Farm Airport were inadequate for a city of Brisbane's size and anticipated growth. Many long-haul international services to Asia were required to make an en route stop, disadvantaging the city to lure prospective carriers and business opportunities. The TAA and Ansett domestic terminals at Eagle Farm Airport were reached from Leamington Avenue, near the Doomben Racecourse. The main runway ran from there to the northeast, and its northeast end survives as taxiway proper of the present airport. The international terminal was in the earlier years on the same apron as the domestic terminals, but in 1975 a new terminal was built near the other end of the runway, and was used for the next 20 years. This terminal is now the cargo terminal. Eagle Farm Airport's runways were, main runway 04/22 2365 ma, 60 m, and secondary runway 1539 ma, 30 m, in a T-shape, with the main runway roughly parallel to the river. The main runway had a full parallel taxiway, runway edge lighting was provided on all runways, TVASIS lighting on runways 04 and 22, and high-intensity culvert white precision approach lighting on runway 22. Navigation aids were a VORDME beacon, ANDB, and an instrument landing system Category 1 on runway 22. 2,421,109 passengers used the airport in 1977. Much of the old Eagle Farm Airport disappeared under the Gateway Motorway. 1988 opening the federal government announced the construction of Brisbane Airport to be built immediately northeast of Eagle Farm Airport. The new airport was built by Leighton Holdings and opened in 1988 with a new domestic terminal and 2 runways. The new airport was built on the former Brisbane residential suburb of Cribe Island that was demolished to make way for the airport. Large amounts of sand were pumped from nearby Murriton Bay to raise the swampland above the tidal range. The 1988 facilities included a domestic terminal, state-of-the-art maintenance facilities, freight apron at the existing passenger terminal, a 3,500-meter and 1,700-meter runways, with parallel taxiway systems, access roads, parking facilities and a 75 m tall air traffic control tower. In 1995 the current international terminal opened, and it has been expanded since that time. Privatization in 1997, as part of the privatisation of numerous Australian airports, the airport was acquired for $1.4 billion from the Federal Airports Corporation by Brisbane Airport Corporation under a 50-year lease. Since that time, BAC has assumed ultimate responsibility for the operations of Brisbane Airport, including all airport infrastructure investment with no government funding. BAC's shareholders are major Australian and international organisations and significant institutional investors. Approximately 80% of BAC shareholders are Australian mums and dads with their savings invested in superannuation and other funds. Brisbane Airport is categorised as a leased federal airport. Terminals: Brisbane Airport has 2 passenger terminals. International terminal. The international terminal was built in 1995 and has 12 bays with aero bridges. 2 of these are capable of handling A380s. There are also 4 layover bays. The terminal has 4 levels. Level 1 houses airlines, baggage handlers and tourism operators, Level 2 handles arrivals, Level 3 houses the departure lounge, and Level 4 houses departure check-in. The airport contains an Emirates Airline first-class lounge, the first outside Dubai that has direct access to the A380 aero bridges, and also has Air New Zealand, Qantas and Singapore Airlines lounges. There is also a 5-storey long-term car park and a smaller short-term car park within close proximity to the terminal. The international terminal redevelopment began in February 2014. The $45 million Australian redevelopment is designed by Brisbane architectural practices Richards and Spence and Archifield. Queensland artists, Sebastian Moody and Murdered Inc. and Garthi Juwanda Sally Gabri, have been commissioned for the artworks. The works are scheduled for completion in mid-2015. Domestic terminal. Brisbane Airport's domestic terminal is a 2-storey curved building with 3 complete satellite arms extending beyond the building, providing additional passenger lounge and gate facilities for airlines. The domestic terminal has 3 distinct areas serving Qantas and QantasLink at the northern end of the building and Virgin Australia at the southern end of the building, with other carriers such as Jetstar, Tiger Airways and JetGo are located in the central area of the terminal. The Qantas concourse has 9 bays served by aero bridges, including 1 served by a dual bridge. It has 3 lounges: the Qantas Club, Business Class and Chairman's Lounge. Virgin Australia occupies what was the former Ansett Australia end of the terminal. Its concourse has 11 parking bays, 6 of which are served by aero bridges. It has 1 lounge: the Virgin Australia Lounge, which is located in the former Golden Wing Club opposite Gate 41. Remote bays are located to the north and south of the building, and in the central area. On February 27, 2014, Qantas announced it had disposed of its long-term lease at the domestic terminal, which was due to expire on December 30, 2018. Under the new arrangements, Qantas would retain exclusive use and operational control over much of the northern end of the terminal until the end of 2018, while securing rights to key infrastructure beyond this period. In addition, BAC plans to make a significant investment in upgrading and improving facilities and services within the terminal, such as lounges, and will assume control of the retail space of this part of the terminal. Hawker Pacific Private Flight Facility. Located on the southeastern side of the airport, the Hawker Pacific Private Flight Facility handles private flights, VIP aircraft movements, and Alliance Airlines departures. Airlines and destinations. Notes: 1. These flights may make an intermediate stop en route to and or from their listed final destination. However, the airlines have no traffic rights to carry passengers solely between Brisbane and the intermediate Australian stop. 2. Services operated under contract to the Government of Queensland. Cargo services. The The following airlines operate scheduled cargo flights from Brisbane. All cargo services operate from the freight terminal. Emergency services Royal Flying Doctor Service. Prospective flights. Tigerair has signalled that Brisbane may be the second port it serves after Perth with services to Denpasar Bali. Cebu Pacific is interested in commencing flights to Brisbane or Melbourne. Indonesia AirAsia X is said to be interested in starting flights to Brisbane. Japan Airlines is said to be considering reopening flights to Brisbane. LAN Airlines is interested in expanding services to Australia, with Brisbane services under consideration. Regional Express has flagged possibility of flights between Brisbane and Armidale. Vietnam Airlines is expected to commence services to Brisbane sometime between 2015 and 2020. Transport. Motorised transport Brisbane Airport has 4 car parks, all operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are 2 multi-level undercover car parks, the International, providing short and long-term services, and the Domestic also provides long and short-term parking. Qantas and Virgin Australia also offer valet parking at the domestic terminal only. The total car space is to 9,000. Including in domestic parking is also a valet service with full car wash and cleaning services. Rail. The airport has 2 railway stations as part of a privately owned airport rail line. The International Terminal Railway Station is elevated and located next to the International Terminal, as is the domestic railway station. Both stations are privately owned and operated by the Airtrain consortium. As a result, fares are more expensive than a regular suburban ticket, however less than half the taxi fare. The Airtrain travels via the City Train suburban network to Fortitude Valley and Brisbane CBD, with most trains continuing to the Gold Coast via Southbank. Trains operate between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., with services running every 30 minutes or 15 minutes in peak times. Interterminal bus There is an interterminal bus connecting the 2 terminals and the nearby Skygate Shopping Precinct, DFO and Novotel Hotel. Services run between 5 a.m. and 11 p.m. for terminal transfers, and 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the DFO Shopping Precinct. Development projects. New parallel runway On September 18, 2007, the federal government granted approval for the construction of a new parallel runway. The proposed $1.3 billion, 3,300 m runway will take approximately 8 years to construct and is being built on swampland 2 kilometers west of the current terminal area and parallel to the existing main runway. The long construction period is due to the settling period of the 13 million cubic meters of sandfill that is to be dredged from Murriton Bay. In early December 2014, the delivery of 11 million cubic meters of sand to the site was completed. Road infrastructure To help relieve congestion between Brisbane and the airport, the Queensland Government, Brisbane City Council, and Athis John Holland Group Macquarie Bank Consortium built the Airport Link project. It includes the longest tunnel in Australia. 6 lanes, from the interchange between the Inner City Bypass and Clem Jones Tunnel to the airport flyover over an improved Gateway overpass which leads onto Airport Drive, cutting 16 sets of traffic lights. It was completed in mid-2012. The new Northern Access Road project, completed in December 2009, is expected to dramatically reduce traffic congestion on Airport Drive. Murriton Drive, the 5 km, multi-lane road network, linking Gateway Motorway with the airport terminals, provides airport users with a second major access route to terminals and on airport businesses. Cycling network Brisbane Airport has cycling and pedestrian connections connecting to the Murriton Bay Bikeway network. Operations. Brisbane has had terminal modifications to accommodate the Airbus A380. The A380 first arrived in Australia at Brisbane on November 14, 2005. The first passenger Airbus A380 arrived at Brisbane on November 8, 2010, when Emirates service EK413 travelling from Auckland to Sydney diverted due to poor weather in Sydney. Emirates now flies daily A380 flights from Dubai, and onwards to Auckland. The Emirates Lounge in Brisbane has a custom era bridge, linking the lounge with the A380's top deck. Occasional diversions are also seen by Qantas and Singapore Airlines, from Sydney and Melbourne airports. Brisbane Centre The Brisbane FIR consists of New South Wales north of Sydney, all of Queensland, most of the Northern Territory and the northern half of Western Australia. It also contains the Australian Tasman Sea airspace. Brisbane Centre is located adjacent to Brisbane Tower at Brisbane Airport. It also contains Brisbane Approach. Due to the nature of the airspace, it controls most international flights in and out of Australia, and domestic flights operating to airports within the FIR. From Brisbane Centre, Air Services Australia manages the airspace over the northern half of Australia, representing 5% of the world's total airspace. As only 2 of 8 capitals are located in the Brisbane FIR, it handles a lesser volume of traffic than Melbourne Centre. However, Sydney is on the border of the 2 FIRs, and thus Brisbane Centre has control of flights arriving or departing in Sydney from the north. Traffic and statistics. Brisbane Airport's annual passenger numbers are expected to reach more than 25.6 million by 2015 and around 50 million by 2035. Brisbane Airport recorded more than 18.5 million passengers in 2007, a Euro 08. 4.1 million of those were international, with the remaining 14.4 million being domestic. Awards. Brisbane Airport has won a number of awards, including being rated as Australia's #1 airport for quality of service 10 years in a row in a survey by the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, and being ranked as 3rd best airport in the world. The International Terminal won the Queensland Architecture Award. In 2005, Brisbane Airport was awarded the IATA Eagle Award, the second of only 2 Australian airports to receive such an award. Accidents and incidents. On February 15, 2012, a Toll Aviation Fairchild Metro 3 freighter came to rest on its fuselage about 2.30 am. Neither of the 2 pilots were injured. The landing gear on the light plane failed to go down during testing after maintenance. Notes: Alternative airports to Brisbane Airport: Sunshine Coast Airport, Gold Coast Airport, Toowoomba Airport, Ballina Byron Gateway Airport, Lismore Airport. See also: Brisbane Airport, a suburb of Brisbane, transport in Australia, United States Army Air Forces in Australia, list of airports in Queensland. References. External links: Brisbane Airport official website, Brisbane Airport Retail Management Division, review of the International Terminal on latedeparture.com.